I think, we're very lucky tonight to have Julia Goldenberg, who I think is going to be able to give us a very personal perspective of some of the issues that Advo and other speakers have highlighted. Julia, can you hear me?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Could you hear me?
We can hear you. Julia, let me just introduce you to the audience here. Julia Goldenberg is the founder and board chair of ACF2U, a young and dynamic Ukrainian non-government organization specialising in protecting human rights and providing assistance to those in need regardless of their background. So we're going to ask Julia to share a personal perspective really on how events in Ukraine have affected her and her family and people across the country. So Julia, I don't know if you could maybe first highlight to us how events in recent days have affected you and your friends and colleagues in Kiev, and what your thoughts are and fears are for the future.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for inviting me and for showing interest toward the situation in Ukraine. Any support is of a great importance at this stage for all of us. So thank you very, very much. To speak about the last day, we have to say a few words to my mind about the last 3-4 months. What actually happened in Ukraine from the perspective of a person who lives here for all my life, actually. So Ukraine is independent during this decade for the last 23 years. And we were immensely proud of the fact that we had no conflicts and that everything was immensely peaceful and there were no deaths. Anyhow, everything changed this January when people were murdered on the street. It was the first shock for the civil society, and it was something that really divided our history. The thing that were going on during the so-called Maidan really divided people into those who supported this movement and into those who were completely against. Our leaders for many years, actually starting with the President Yushchenko and going further to the fourth president, Mr. Yanukovych, did their best to divide the country into east and west, south and west, and it was a real problem. Nevertheless, in Ukraine, there are a lot of intermarriages, there are a lot of marriages between people from different regions. And in any way, Ukraine is quite hospitable and peaceful place. At least it used to be like that. So all the things related to Maidan and to shootings and to revolvement of the people for their independence and for the possibility to live in a European country were rather painful. But finally the fourth president escaped and people were more than happy. We were all like, wow, a new life is going to start, we will move further. And a new government was established and everything seemed to be really nice and we all were waiting for something good. However, new authorities made few mistakes, very painful ones, and gave grounds to what we are watching today. And today we are watching Russian invasion. We have lost some territory of the country. We are all shocked again. In the same time, people are divided. And it relates to the Jewish community as well. Some people are waiting for Russians to come to Kiev, and they are going to meet them with flowers, and they believe that Russians would bring peace, would bring stability, would bring economic increase, etc., and stabilize prices. Other part of the population is ready to fight and to be even murdered, but not to let Russians in. We are looking for the European future, and it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen. But the most impoverished strata of population, both Jewish and non-Jewish. Actually, we must admit that the general crisis, both political and economic, actually affect everyone, irrespective of their nationality here in Ukraine. So for the most impoverished people, for elderly, the whole situation is awful, and it does make their lives shorter. I could give numerous examples of people whom I know in person who have real problems in their families because of this situation. Uh, Adva gave a great example. This old gentleman who is 92 years old is still in front of me. I could really watch him, and it's really very, very painful and complicated. Also, there are a lot of rumors, and the situation is trying to be even hotter, because one day it is said that Kiev will be bombed, another day it is said that Russian tanks would be in Kiev in a few hours, etc., etc. Also, there is a huge aggression against Russians in general and against the Russian population. In the same time, Mr. Putin managed to do something that was the goal of our all leaders, but they didn't manage to do. He managed to unite East and West, all parts of the country actually, because people don't want anyone to be in their land. People don't want anyone to interfere, and again, it relates to everyone. The rhetoric of the Kremlin representatives, for example, their representatives to the EU, is really very, let's say, very painful, because today Mr. Kokarev stated that they should go further, and the Crimean Peninsula was just the beginning. So it doesn't give any stability. Also, considering the, and it has been mentioned already, the treasury accounts are almost empty, and there are no funds, and there is a huge debt of Ukraine, almost 7 billion hryvnias. That is about 4.5 million pounds were allocated to support the Ukrainian army. In the same time, the social payments could be reduced. Everyone is afraid that pensions and salaries that are paid by the authorities would not be performed. Anyhow, meanwhile, everything is performed. We are all working, we all continue to work as we used to work, but in the same time, the general atmosphere is very heavy, let's say. And one wrong word could make a fire, a real fire here.
Juliet, maybe just very quickly tell us personally how you feel about the situation and what your worry is for the coming weeks.
We don't know what to expect. That's the problem. We could call it post-shock trauma, we could call it whatever, but we are all frustrated, and I'm frustrated as well. I'm afraid what's going to happen to my friends who could join the army and who would definitely join the army. We don't know what to expect, and I personally don't know what to expect from the coming agreement with the EU, if it's going to be signed or if it's not going to be signed. The situation is really very unstable. You know, in the same time, from my personal experience, I may say that just 2 days ago, we all celebrated here Purim, and there were several Purim celebrations in Kiev. It was a real fest. And though people were speaking about the politics and the expectations, we were all together and we did celebrate. So I can't make any predictions, really. Nobody can actually at this stage. I feel sorry for some of my friends who delete from the social networks their friends from Russia, for example. It happens. The best friend of mine, who was always apolitical, is doing that. She can't stand what they're saying. I feel sorry for my uncle who called me today and said he would not come to Ukraine because there are Nazis here and he's from Russia. I felt really sorry for myself yesterday when I watched Putin saying that he would protect us. You know, we have a joke here that it's Odessa, and one Jew says to another, you know, Chaim, I'm trying not to speak Russian anymore. I'm trying to speak Ukrainian. Oh, Moisha, what's going on? You're afraid to be beaten for your Russian? Not. I'm afraid to be protected for my Russian.
Julia, thank you very much. Stay with us, Julia
Yes.
and Amelia, please.